Okay, this is the work session for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for Tuesday, February the 9th, 2021. We are limiting I get to start over, don't I? Thank you. This is the work session for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for Tuesday, February the 9th, 2021. We've limited physical access in the meeting room due to current public limitations on public gatherings. But we have made accommodations so the public can participate. They can go on Franklin TV or the City of Franklin website, watch us on Facebook or YouTube accounts, or the telephone number 312-626-6799 with a meeting ID of 934-376-55940 with a passcode of 025419. Callers will be unmuted and given an opportunity to comment during the meeting at specific times. There's also the possibility to see at City Hall in the lobby. The public can email comments that they want to make prior to 3:30 p.m. to the recorder at franklintn.gov to be read aloud. And then live comments submitted by email will be limited to 2 minutes. Here's some links: youtube.com/user/City of Franklin, or Facebook Live is facebook.com/City of Franklin, or the city website is franklintn.gov/Franklin TV. We're going to call this meeting to order, and we're going to call the roll. Alderman Barnhill.
Present.
Alderman Martin. Alderman Speedy.
Present.
Alderman McClendon.
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Berger.
Present.
Alderman Peterson.
Present.
Alderman Blanton.
Here.
And Alderman Martin, have you come online yet? She will be in a minute then. Okay. We're now going to go to Resolution 2021-11, a resolution declaring the Board of Mayor and Alderman members shall meet on February the 9th for work session and conduct its essential business by electronic means rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location because it's necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Is there a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Alderman Barnhill. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yeah.
Alderman Martin. Alderman Speedy.
Yes.
Alderman McClendon.
Sure.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Berger.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to administration of the oath of office to newly appointed at-large Alderman John Schroer in accordance with the city charter, Article 4, Section 4. And we'd like to welcome Judge Woodruff, who's going to do the swearing in.
So if you go ahead and mute yourself.
Can we get sound on this?
Berger said she couldn't hear.
Hello.
Hold on. Can you hear now?
No. You're gonna trade it out with this one?
No, it should go. Hold on.
You know, I'm nervous, my knees are shaking, so.
Can you hear anything?
Well, they're artificial.
Still can't hear
We can hear them squeaking.
And it doesn't say you're muted, but we can't hear anything.
I know, I don't understand why.
Can you trade it out?
How about this?
If you just do your
If you
sound.
just do your sound.
Wait, she got
Yes. Yeah, there's sound.
it? There's sound now.
Perfect.
There's sound.
Perfect.
I don't know what I did.
Is that gonna play back?
Nope.
Okay,
You're fine.
so,
Yeah,
okay.
Are you ready, Mr. Mayor? Ready, Mr. Mayor?
We're ready. Thank you for being here, Judge.
Delighted. All right, Mr. Schroer, prepare to take the oath of office. You'll be so kind, so raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, John Schroer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will discharge truly, faithfully, civilly, and impartially
that I will discharge truly, faithfully, civilly, and impartially,
without prejudice or favor,
without prejudice or favor,
all the duties of alderman
all the duties of alderman
to which I have been elected.
to which I have been elected.
I will abide by all federal, state, and local laws
I will abide all federal, state, and local laws
and serve the citizens of Franklin
and serve the citizens of Franklin
to the best of my skills and abilities.
to the best of my skills and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
Was I elected or appointed?
Well, you were elected by the poll.
I was elected by the.
Congratulations, Alderman Schroer, and we look forward to you being part of the meeting tonight.
That other one was too long for me to remember.
And as is required by law, he's now signing the appropriate documentation. So we would now like to welcome citizen comments for items that are not on the agenda tonight. And I do know we have someone here tonight that wants to make some comments. Here you go, John.
So you're gonna there and talk?
Yes,
Can I drop my mask?
yes.
And I need to mute, correct?
No, keep it just like it is.
Okay,
And tell me when.
you go ahead right now. Just welcome.
Hi,
Gloria.
my name is Gloria Benson, and I'm better known as the Pie Lady. I'm here tonight to thank a few people who helped me, who helped when my precious mom, who lived with me for 7.5 years, passed away. I moved my mom in with me as a result of my father passing away, and she loves Williamson County. She loves everything about it, the shops, the people, just everything. It's so clean to her. She loved it. And first of all, I wanted to present to our great mayor, who I often call my baby. That's my Southern thing. A trophy for being a great mayor. I'd like you to look at it, see if you like it.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Thank you.
And second of all, I would like for Eric Stuckey to come join me for a second. He is our city manager in Franklin and does an excellent job. He allows his employees to be empowered to do their jobs, and that's what we need more of. So I have a trophy to present to you, but you have to take it out. And it's got, and I had like 3 more, but I'm gonna wait and just give them in.
Oh, very nice. Very, very
They
nice.
better spell your name right.
They did, perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you do with all of our people that work for our city, and they all do an excellent job. I managed customer satisfaction for 30 years. And let me tell you, I love my people out here, especially my police officers. Now look,
You did a great job.
I have a permit carry at 38, but I carry my boxer with me. So when he's not with me, if somebody tries to bother an officer, I'm gonna hurt them. And if one is stopped by itself, I'll pull up behind them and wait to make sure nobody hurts them, because they're our protectors. But let it be known that police are not the first responders. First responders are fire departments, and they're wonderful. And I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for
I
taking time to
appreciate you all.
recognize. Thank you.
I love my city. You have my support all the way.
Well, we love you too, and the contribution you've made to us, and we wish you the best of health, selfishly, because those pies during the Christmas holidays are appreciated by everyone. So thank you, Gloria.
I just miss my little mama.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, that's
She was
sweet.
my life. That's what I lived for. So now it's me and my dog.
Well, God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
I appreciate you all very much.
Do we have any other citizen comments?
I've been bringing some pies. I just got my oven.
Do we have any other citizen comments, Angie? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, which is certificate of compliance for wine and grocery stores from Matco store number 3303, located at 501 Liberty Pike, Franklin, Tennessee. Managing agent Keith Slatter, and so on and so forth. Any questions about that one? Okay, we'll keep moving through. We'll next go to items 4 through 7, which is resolution adopting a plan of services for the annexation of Crossway Drive and Lewisburg Pike. And in addition, there's resolution establishing a public hearing. Let's say I'm missing something here. Oh, adopting a plan of services 1, annexation was 2, an ordinance to zone the property also, and then lastly, a development plan. Sorry, it took me a minute. So who's going to speak to those 4 items?
That would be me. Thank you, Mr.
Great.
Mayor.
How you
Good
doing,
evening.
Joey?
Good evening to everybody. So for the plan of services and the annexation, staff is recommending approval for the property south of Bowman Road and west of Lewisburg Pike. Those 2 parcels right there, they number about 52 acres. Planning Commission also recommended approval for the ordinance to zone to PD 0.7, as well as the development plan. We can go through that. Staff is recommending disapproval, and I'll go into my comments. The Tuckaway PUD subdivision is a residential development consisting of 37 single-family lots on 52 acres. It does respond to many of the recommendations and guidelines of Envision Franklin, including preserving and highlighting the HHO and natural features of the property. Additionally, the lots along Lewisburg Pike are compatible with the size and width of those already existing along Lewisburg Pike. The applicant is requesting a modification of standards for connectivity in order to not connect to the south to that vacant property. Do you see that to the south there? Both Envision Franklin and the zoning ordinance do recommend and also require connectivity in all directions for new developments. Currently, as designed, it's a single connection development to Lewisburg, as the Williamson County Highway Board denied full access to Crossway Drive towards the north and allotted just for an emergency access gate only. So as designed, with 37 single family lots on a single connection to Lewisburg Pike, city staff believes that the proposed density is too high for this sort of a single connection. While the northern connection could be approved as a full connection point in the future, that option is not guaranteed. As a result, it heavily limits traffic flow and does not provide a long-term solution for how services and deliveries are made in this neighborhood, and would be forced, or trucks be forced to turn around using people's driveways toward the end of the street. Let's see. With fewer houses and less density, there would be less frequency of deliveries and services and less need of a larger connectivity network. However, staff recommends full connections be made regardless in all directions. So staff recommends disapproval of modification of standard number 1 for connectivity and recommends disapproval of the overall development plan. And because of this, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the zoning to as proposed. They also recommended approval of the modification of standards for connectivity by a vote of 7-1, and they recommended approval of the overall development plan by a vote of 6-2. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you're muted, sir.
Okay, any questions from the board or any comments?
Yes.
Alderman Barnhill.
If you're not, did I understand to say that you're not approving 37 homes on 52 acres density?
So staff recommended against the proposed density of 37 homes with the as designed single connection to Lewisburg Pike. However, Planning Commission did recommend approval of the development as proposed by a vote of 6-2.
And again, who besides the staff is in opposition to the modification of standards to the?
Who the one vote was?
No, not necessarily the one vote. I'm saying the surrounding neighbors. Or are we trying to I guess, comfort the surrounding neighbors, or are we trying to just avoid that? I mean, we discussed connectivity the other night, and I mean, we discussed it at a workshop, spent 30 minutes on it, and now I guess staff is saying not to connect, not to do connectivity. Am I understanding you correctly?
Let me kind of clarify. Staff is recommending disapproval of the modification that would not connect to the south. So staff is pushing the connectivity that is required by the zoning ordinance. The applicant is requesting to remove that southern connection.
Okay.
So that is the modification of standard for the tonight.
Alderman Speedy.
Yeah, I guess my comments would be, I mean, I feel like this is one where staff's kind of in a rock and a hard place because they do require the applicant to go through the neighborhood meeting process. And at the initial neighborhood meeting, we know that that southern connection was there. And those two surrounding subdivisions are county subdivisions, and the neighbors were, I want to say 99.99% against that southern connection. Obviously they removed that. I guess if we said, I know those people feel like they don't really have a voice because they are county citizens. They're not Ward 3 citizens that could vote somebody out of office. But, I have also a feeling if we did make them put that southern connection in right now, then we go to the county and they're probably only going to grant emergency access. So I feel like maybe long term, this is probably going to start happening even more and more as we squeeze that urban growth boundary around some existing county subdivisions. Maybe we need to have the county's planning department and our planning department have some more agreed upon connectivity standards, because I think everyone on the board is for connectivity until we run into some of these situations where it can't happen. So, I think as it is, the public hearing will probably happen and it will be a non-event. But if we go back and force them to make that southern connection, if this was an in-person meeting, we'd have, the room full with matching T-shirts because they would adamantly be against it. So it's just tough because we do make the applicants go through that process, and it was brutal. Those neighborhood meetings were brutal. And then they comply with the neighborhood, and then it's almost like they're against staff. So I understand it's a tough situation for them to be in.
And Alderman Speedy, you make a great point about revisiting land use with the county, and that is on the agenda. Mayor Anderson's called together planning directors and the mayors and city managers to do that. And I think that's one of the points that we have to make whenever we have those meetings, is that this is a problem we continue to encounter. Other comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Peterson, then I'll take Vice Mayor Burger.
It was me.
Oh, and
I don't think it was Bev, it was me.
Well, I'm looking at everybody, so I'll come back to Alderman. I've got 3 people in the queue.
You can put me third.
okay. If you drive out there to the existing subdivisions, you see that their locale and their development there really is not conducive to connectivity and drive through their property. It just really, as I say, even though we're talking about some larger lots here, still they are already built homes, and it really would not be a place where it would be helpful to anybody other than maybe, a delivery truck or something to have the connection here.
You do, Alderman Peterson?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Next, Alderman Blanton.
Sorry, I apologize. I very much agree with what Scott said, and we did talk about this, I guess it was last week, Clyde, and talking about trying to connect through city subdivisions that abut county subdivisions. We've had that happen before out in the east part of the town, and it's hard to go from a city street standard, say that 5 times twice fast, into a county subdivision and have that transition. I think 37 homes on 52 acres. It's a great density to have within the city of Franklin, something we don't see very often at all anymore. But also coming from somebody who lives in a subdivision, and I don't know how many houses are in my subdivision, has a 1 in, 1 out. It's probably 4 to 5 times that amount of homes. So I appreciate staff and their holding our feet to the fire as it talks about connectivity, but it does not work here.
Mayor.
Alderman Martin. Go ahead, Alderman Martin, unmute yourself.
I agree. I do not think that this is the place for it. These subdivisions are established as large rural areas, and to open them up to traffic that they did not count on I just don't think it's acceptable. And I think the emergency exit in the back, the emergency road for that number of homes would be sufficient. And I would not support the connectivity through those southern subdivisions.
Vice Mayor.
I have a question. So we're talking 37 units on 52 acres. I'm just trying to understand this southern connection. Somebody tell me there is I'm looking at this map, and there is an empty lot or empty green space. And we've said, staff is saying they should have a connectivity there. We're saying, why is that needed? We don't know why that would be needed because it's an empty lot. So in the future, if they build here, why not have them have a dead end road there where it just ends, and then 10 years from now or 2 years from now or 20 years from now, if this gets developed and they want connectivity there, is there an advantage to, I'm just asking, is there an advantage to that, to have that it won't go all the way through because we have a green field there. So, but putting an emergency exit there or putting a dead end cul-de-sac or road where it could eventually be put through in the future, say 10 years from now or whatever. Is there an advantage to that we're missing here? I'm just asking the question. So can somebody speak to that?
There is about an 18-acre property to the south of this that is undeveloped, and that only has access to county streets at this point. So if there was a southern connection, then there would be access to the city corporate limits and the street system through there to get through the proposed subdivision that you see before you tonight. Otherwise, that parcel will really be locked within just having transportation access through the county subdivisions. So in a sense, it's making a decision about the future of that parcel to the south with this development.
So my question is, what does it hurt to require them to bring that street down somewhere along that parcel? And it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to impede anyone. It's not going to force anything through there because it's a green lot. Is that wise? I'm asking, is that a wise move to require that? Because it's not hurting anybody. It won't do anything. And in the future, if it's never needed, it can just stay that way.
Our policy documents and our zoning further enforce that connectivity through different directions. So yes, our policy and zoning supports good planning practice and good connectivity across the different directions. That's why we've recommended disapproval, in part because of the lack of connectivity to the south.
Well, I would think in the future that you'd want to have some other kind of connectivity to a landlocked area and to just require it to come up to that green field and stop there. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's not going to put anything through today. But what if somebody develops this in 10 years from now and they go, well, we sure wish there was a street there for connectivity, even if it's, fire or police or whatever. And somebody mentioned deliveries, pushing people back out into the main road and then down around and all the way back up around to get to Gray Cliff or whatever develops in that greenfield possibly. I don't know. I'm just thinking it's wise to follow your advice to have some connectivity there, which is actually not real connectivity today, but it could be connectivity in 10 years from now. So if you're developing it, why not require that? Why wouldn't the board say, yes, put a stub out that ends there? What does that hurt? Is that not better foresight to do that? So that's my question to the board.
Mr. Mayor, I want to comment about that, if I may. I think you're muted, so I don't know whether it's okay.
Vice Mayor, are you done? Alderman Peterson wants to make a comment.
Yes. Think about, is it Goose Creek Estates that is still in the county after I don't know how many years? And remember whenever the Berry Farms part was coming right in there, they still do not want the connection. And it is just a terrific fight, even more so to have the stub. And so I would say probably not here. Now, to get to the big picture, of course, many people think that connectivity is the way that everything absolutely should be done. But in fact, there are sometimes things, especially if you're already in a built out subdivision, that makes things not fit just the picture as if you're drawing lines on a map. And I think that is one of the things that happens here. And I have forgotten if there are any water or any, or maybe hillsides. I don't think there are on this, and I don't have my little city map to look at like that. But this is just one of those places where, as I say, the people who are already there and who have been there for a number of years really would be affected greatly by requiring connectivity there.
Mayor, can I ask one other question? I guess.
Go ahead, Alderman Speedy.
Based on the current situation, before maybe the county does revisit some of the land planning, but if that 18 acres does come into the city, let's say right now, does our planning staff feel like if they tried to maybe create connections to Durham Manor and St. James Drive, I get the impression that the county would only allow emergency access gates east and west right now. Is that probably a fair consideration?
Just based on history with trying to connect with county subdivisions, that's probably accurate. But if it were to be annexed into the county, or excuse me, into the city, then we would require connections or stub outs in all directions.
Alderman Barnhill, do you want to make another comment?
Yes, I think Vice Mayor Berger has made some excellent comments. I fail to see. I mean, I'm not saying that the connection is today, but I think that we miss an opportunity many times when we don't plan and at least a stub out or whatever. And I want to give just a small example and use my where I live, Willow Springs. Willow Springs is stubbed out. Willow Springs Boulevard is stubbed out to the, I guess, west side. And at some point in time, you will, when McHatcher completes the circle, that there's an intention to run that road all the way to McHatcher. Now, probably you're going to have the same thing down here then as you got now and day after tomorrow, but somewhere along the way, somebody somewhere, we're going to have to make, the decision that we're going to follow the policy and we're going to do some planning. And I'm not saying that you run that out. And it's amazing to me because we always consider that the traffic's going into the other neighborhood. It's not the other neighborhood that's coming into the new neighborhood. So I think it's you can do one or the other. It's an option for the other neighborhood that's already developed to have another access to Lewisburg Highway by going through the new subdivision. So I think some point in time we got to look at connectivity, or we change our policy and forget about it. One of the two. But planning and our studies and our roads, nowhere can you find a recommendation that connectivity is not it's not a traffic reliever and alleviate some of the problems that we're having. So I'd like to see it stubbed out, but I'm not going to do this. And I certainly don't think that 37 homes on 57 acres is too dense.
And I also, Mr. Mayor, make the comment that along with what Clyde just said, it's not too dense. No, it's not, but it's also 37 homes is not a huge impact. I mean, if you're putting 100, 150 homes, then you're talking about maybe more of an impact. 37 homes? I don't think the impact is all that great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could say one more thing about that.
Please, Alderman Peterson.
It doesn't mean just that the people who are there will do the cut through. There will be people coming from one place wanting to cut through to another one. It wouldn't just be the people that are living, in that particular subdivision, all deciding to go another way. Although sometimes that really might be the case, but that in general, you're not just talking about making one connecting to 37 homes. You're talking about anybody that needs to cut through, and people are doing that all the time, all over the city.
Any other comments?
Mayor, this is Greg Gamble. The applicant, Jim Cross, would like to make a comment if you've got time.
Sure. Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks. I won't take but a second, but I just wanted to maybe make some things clear that for everybody to understand that we initially, when we did this plan, we showed a connection there, and we're not opposed to having a connection there. But when we put it back in, and Scott said it best, if the whole room fills up at public hearing time and then you decide not to approve it because of all the public that showed up for it, then now we back in the same boat we are. So we're okay with putting it in from our perspective. It's just we were, through the neighborhood and the community meetings, we were trying to come up with a plan that the neighbors could live with, and that we wouldn't have all this public against us. So just so you know, we're not necessarily opposed to putting it in. We're just trying to take care of the neighbors' response. So I just wanted to clear that up. But if you want to put it in, we're good to put it in, but they'll all show up at the public hearing, and it will not be probably a good thing. But as long as everybody's okay with that, that's fine.
Any other comments? You ready to move on to the next item? Item number 8, Resolution 2020-182, a resolution to adopt the revision of the City of Franklin Neighborhood Traffic Calming Program.
Mr. Mayor and Board, I'll just say a quick comment and then turn it over to our team here. But you've seen this a couple times through Capital Investment Committee and through a work session back in the fall. And we did some tweaks to it, not probably significant, but we did want to bring it back through to you. And it is included on tonight's voting agenda as well, if you'd like, just because we've been working on it for a while. But essentially, as an overview, we've worked to modernize our traffic calming program to fit best practices now, and to learn some lessons as we've implemented it over the years. So I think Paul and Adam have worked on this, and I'll open it up for them to walk through the adjustments, the tweaks that we've made in response to your feedback, and as we've looked at the program a little further. So Paul?
So actually, I got to give all the credit to Adam. He's done the entire update himself with our traffic team. But essentially, I'm not going to go through the entire presentation again because we've seen it twice, but a high level, as Eric stated, we've updated the traffic calming policy based on national practices and federal guidances. We've also avoided and eliminated multiple public meetings. So when we get these requests, instead of having an initial public meeting, we're going out and doing the analysis first and determining whether it qualifies or doesn't qualify. So we've significantly reduced the number of public meetings that are required. We've also, Adam's created a prioritization process. Not all traffic calming requests are the same. Some are a bigger priority than others. And so now they have a system to rank them in importance. And then the other big thing is we've added a education and enforcement process of if you don't qualify, what's next? And some of those things are the temporary feedback signs or process at looking at reducing the speed limit or additional speed limit signs. Some of those things we can do really quickly and easily. The one major change that we did add is that originally we weren't allowing it on minor collector roadways. And we had heard from the board that we didn't necessarily want to rule that out. And so we went back and looked at it and we said, at the discretion of staff and ultimately the board of mayor and aldermen, we could implement some of the traffic calming measures on some of the minor collector roadways. So we wanted to add that provision in there because some of our minor collectors, especially on the grid system in the downtown, are more residential in nature. And we should try to do traffic calming on there if it's requested and supported by the residents. And the other big change was we went from, instead of a 51% majority to a 67% majority. So again, I think you've seen this multiple times. We've taken our best shot to incorporate all of the feedback and comments from the board. And I know Adam's on. If you have any questions, we're happy to try to answer those for you. But overall, it's a significantly improved process.
Question.
Yes.
Alderman Martin.
Paul, it seems to me that there was a time when you said, or Adam said, that instead of asking the residents to go door to door, that the city would help with that. Where does that stand?
That's a great question. And so we we have a limited staff, and we have a lot of capital projects and a lot of development going on. So we do generally rely on the residents to go door to door and petition. Now, we support them in that effort in setting up the forms and the feedback that we need, but we will rely heavily on the residents. And just as an overview, we will define an area of impact or area of influence for the traffic calming measure, and then we ask somebody from the HOA or the neighborhood to champion that through and go door to door to get those signatures. Now, in the rare cases, I've been here for 11 years now, and I've only had one case where a resident said they were uncomfortable doing that for various reasons. In those cases, we are willing to help schedule the meeting, have the meeting, and then send out flyers and mailers to do that. I think it was one of the aldermen challenged us to see if we could set that up electronically. And that's something we're going to strive to do. It won't happen overnight, but is there a way we can do that through the web where people can vote? But right now, I can promise you, in those rare instances where a resident is not comfortable doing it, for whatever reason it is, we will assist them by sending out mailers. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I appreciate that. But this week I've had 3 requests and I've sent them all to Adam. And I'm sure he's gotten them, or at least 2 of them. And if you just make it plain to the residents that they need to be the ones to go door to door, and then if they tell you they're uncomfortable, they'll tell you that.
Mayor, may I?
Alderman Blanton, please.
So, yes, I was the one that brought to Paul the idea that I had a citizen that was uncomfortable. She was a single woman who lived in a neighborhood, and she did not want to have a target on her back for going around, changing something that she wasn't a part of instigating as far as the speeding. I know here, and even in my own subdivision, we've got problems with people parking in the street. And it's been a couple of years since they were given a petition to go around and have people, whatever, and it's never circled back around. I think that we have done an incredible job of matching technology with the need of our city. And I think this is something that needs to be put on whatever short list there can be, and how we can accept people, number one, don't have right now, the sense of safety to go door to door. But number two, people are not answering their doors like they used to. It's hard to get that kind of buy-in, and it ties the hands of some of the subdivisions. So whatever we can creatively think of to support areas of need that needs a consensus, we've got to figure out how to make that happen.
Anybody else? Okay, good comments. Item 9 is Resolution 2020-186, a resolution to approve a payment of an incentive to the Franklin Housing Authority of up to $176,652 to help offset the cost of impact fees paid by the Housing Authority in conjunction with construction of new and low and moderate income housing as part of Cherokee Plan Unit Development, PUD. Any questions about that? Item number 10.
Mr. Mayor, I do, real quick.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I've always wondered about this, and here's a great example. So the impact fees, are the impact fees being put on 100 dwellings, or are they being put on, let's see, it would be 28 units. The impact is already there of 72 units, correct? So we're not adding 100 units, we're adding the difference between 100 units and 72 units.
Correct. Good evening, Mayor and everyone.
Wouldn't we have impact
Good, Tom.
only on 28 units?
Correct. Yeah, this is good evening, everyone. This is Tom Marsh. And yeah, as usual with any redevelopment project, we grant credits for impact fees for road impact and in this case, parkland impact fees, even for standard for-profit developments. If they're demolishing existing units, like in this case, they would get credit for the impact fees for the units that were demolished. So the total in this case, the potential $176,000 is ultimately only based on the 28 new dwelling units.
On the 28, all right. And the funding for this is all coming out of the general fund, out of the taxpayers?
Yes, you are keeping your water and sewer, or your road, in this case, road impact and your parkland funds whole by replacing them with general tax dollars. That way we don't subsidize it otherwise or lessen our ability to deliver on the infrastructure that the impact fees are designed to support.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Ready to move on? Item 10, draft change order number 1 for the City of Franklin contract 2020-0020 with Garney Construction for the Spencer Creek at Franklin Road Sanitary Sewer Project.
So good evening. So as you probably know, with all the construction along Franklin Road right now, we are the last, the water department is the last little bit of construction happening from the west side of Franklin Road underneath Franklin Road along Spencer Creek. So that sewer line is being replaced to increase hydraulic capacity, and it's an older line that's being realigned with some of to increase the capacity. So as we started off at the church property and we've gone upstream. As we've gone upstream, we've noticed that the pipe quality is degrading quite a bit. And since we're there, and since Garney is a contractor who has time, he's got the trench opened, we're deciding to replace that pipe to kind of prevent us from having to go back in this area again in the near future. So the change order, so when you awarded the contract to Garney, you allowed a small contingency. Obviously, this replacement of the pipe is larger than that contingency. So we wanted to bring this in front of you as it exceeds the contract amount.
Questions and comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 11, which is an update and discussion of the Parks Department capital investment projects.
Mr. Mayor, I'll kick this off a little bit and then hand it off to our team. One of the things we will try to do over the next 3 to 4 months or so is each month bring back a group of capital projects and give you an update of where we stand. We are at the stage that we would normally do a full update of our 10-year capital investment projects. What we're going to do is start with an update of the prioritized and funded projects, tell you where they are from a timing standpoint, any update in costs, any other variations and things that may have happened since we originally put it on the 10-year plan. And at the end of that, we'll give you an update of the where we stand relative to our financial model, our funding model. So what we'll do is we'll go through parks. Next month, we'll do transportation projects, so roadway projects and trails and connection projects. And then we'll do general and facilities after that. So at the end of that, we'll give you a more comprehensive look at the financial model and where we stand. As you may recall, we didn't use every dollar we had in our capacity model when we did this a year and a half ago. But we are also in a more uncertain time financially. And so it's a good thing. It was wise that we were conservative in allocating those dollars, significant projects, but we did leave some powder dry, if you will. But we want to re-examine where we are with the priority projects in mind and see what, if any, adjustments we want to make going forward after we've looked at the projects we've already selected and where we stand financially. So this will be a multiple installment process as we go through it. And we're going to go through parks again tonight. I think Mark's going to kick it off, but Lisa and Paul will also be part of it. And Shahad, who has worked on this as well, will also probably chime in with specifics. And so we'll probably go item by item. it might be good to kind of let the staff present the item of the specific project. And then if there's a question you have on that project, we'll take a moment to address those and then cycle through all the projects and then summarize it at the end. So I'll hand it off to Mark, but thank you for your indulgence as we go through this. But this is an important update as we look at these infrastructure projects that we are excited to keep moving forward with. So Mark, take it away.
Thank you, sir. Michael, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. So we're going to jump right in with the largest of the parks projects, the Southeast Municipal Complex project. Right now, we've completed engineering's completed the bid on the interchange with Carruthers and the bridge work, as well as some sanitary sewer work that needed to be done to accommodate the fill for the bridge. So that was bid in late 2020, and we're looking at about a 2-year completion for that piece of the project. The next element to that includes a number of different pieces, 5 ball fields, one of which we're anticipating to be a turf field, the inclusive playground, some infrastructure work such as water and the Spine Road Parks facility. As you'll see in the Gantt chart on the bottom, it's about a 2-year project. The one thing you do not see is the bid date. If you look at it linearly, we would start construction at the beginning of 2023, but there may be an opportunity in which we are able to bid it based on accessibility to the site earlier than that. So that's to be determined at that point. Michael, would you go to the next slide, please? So where we stand, the original project cost was a little over $31 million. What we're seeing right now, based on more recent opinions of cost, is a current projected cost of about $38 million based on that original scope. There have been some changes along the way, as you would anticipate during any one of these large projects. We did have to add some scope relative to the sewer line that I had mentioned earlier. It's about $1.1 million add to the total project, which brings it in right at a little over $39 million. One of the other pieces, though, too, is when we envision kind of this inclusive playground, one of the key things of that was to get the community engaged and understand what more specific needs are. And as we did that, we realized that the community is really embracing this project. So we do anticipate a higher cost than we originally envisioned. Another part of the driver for that higher current projected cost is the bridge bid. I think we had a projection that I don't recall the specific numbers. My apologies, and I can get those to you. But it did come in higher than what was originally envisioned when these projects were presented to you a couple of years ago. If you go to the next slide, Michael, this is just a really nice rendering of the inclusive playground as it's kind of envisioned to date. And with that, I'd like to kind of open it up for any questions. Would love to hear feedback. So I'll open it up for that. And of course, Lisa and Paul, if you've got any additional comments, please jump in.
The one other thing to just note, as Mark said, with the bid award of the infrastructure package, we know about 30% of the cost of this overall project now, and that did come in a little higher. You'll recall we hustled to get that award done timely, though, because we were concerned about it escalating even further with some issues around steel prices and some other things we were seeing about locking in some cost elements. So that's the nature of the beast sometimes, but we know more. We have a better handle on total costs on this critical project. We do see the capability with Inclusive Playground to fundraise pretty much all of that cost, I would say. I think realistically, there's a lot of support in the community for seeing that and being part of that project. And then, just the elements that we work with there. and so it's just kind of where we are at this stage. And it is a hugely important project just with the lack of recreation facilities in that growing southeast area.
And thank you for mentioning that, Eric. We do have committed partner funding for $1.5 million towards the inclusive playground. It's also eligible for parkland funds from quadrant 2. So currently there's about $700,000 in that bucket. Okay, so unless there are any questions, we'll move on to the next project, and that will be the Robinson Lake Dam and Park project. As you know, when we need to perform some work on the dam structure to come into compliance ultimately with the Safe Dams Act. The 2021 is going to be a busy bidding year for the engineering department. We're looking to bid that in the second quarter of 2021 and expect, again, about a 2-year construction period. Michael, if you would go to the next slide, please. So the original projected scope was about projected cost was about $5.5 million. Again, based on that original scope, the current projected cost is about 7.6. We did look at trying to program some things in as early as we possibly can to activate that site. And we did add some scope with respect to trails and boardwalk and a parking tray, and expect that construction cost to be about $1.1 million. So right now we're at a total project cost of about $8.75 million. This has been an interesting project and a challenging site in terms of dealing with the lake depth and understanding how we need to improve that, the levee between the river and this site.
This is another one where the dam has been a challenge. And you may remember we were originally going to acquire this project, I think, for somewhere around $1.5 million for the property. We ended up getting it for about a third of that because of the uncertainty around the dam and what we would need to do to make it comply with the requirements. So I think when you think about this, yeah, there is a cost escalation here, but that was somewhat factored in the lowered cost in acquiring the land because of the uncertainty and what we've learned more as we've gotten into this. So it is a great addition to the Southeast Park area by providing that passive recreational area and that lake area, and to have that ability to have trails around the lake and again, a more passive area compared to the active sports fields to the south.
Mayor.
Oh.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Alderman Barnhill. And then I think Alderman Blanton wanted to make a comment too. If you want to.
You know, I haven't, I apologize. I haven't looked at this as closely as I should, but I have to be somewhat candid. We may have given $500,000 for the property when it was originally trying to sold to us for $1.5 million. But we may to give $500,000 and then have to spend $8.5 million on it to get it to where we want it to be. I fail to see where the $8.5 million is. I mean, that's a lot of trails and picnic tables and dredging in the lake and whatever else we're planning on doing. A lot of canoes, if you're going to put canoes on the lake and do something with that. But I'll look at it closely. I just want you to understand that is one heck of a lot of money. When we originally thought that, it would be much, much less than that. Even though we knew we were going into some situations where the dam was leaking and we had some issues there. But $8.4 million, $8.5 million is one heck of a lot of money. And I agree, we should be doing it on the Southeast Park because that's all of that'll be used. but I'm not sure about about another $8.5 million going into the lake. So, and I'll close my comments with that. I'll look over it a little more thoroughly and see what I think we're getting for $8.5 million. But I would encourage us to look real close at that particular project.
Alderman Barnhill, one thing I'd like to just add is that the majority of that funding is going into the dam itself. I'd say almost $5 million of that dollars is having to go into rehab the dam. There's grout injecting that we have to do. It's extremely expensive. And we're gonna have to drain the entire lake. And with the Safe Dams Act, we know that this does not meet those expectations. We have to bring it up to standards. So just keep that in mind as you consider this project.
Alderman Blanton.
I'm sure, I mean, Paul and Jonathan even, but when I hear the word dam, I think back to the dam project we did off Lewisburg Pike. And it makes me wonder if there might be any grants available through TDEC and or TDOT because of this having the trail system. So just throwing that out there, I'm sure you live in that world a lot more than I do, but it makes me curious if there's some funds available for this project.
We will certainly look into it. I don't think TDOT would be a source of funding, but we can certainly check with CDM Smith to see what's out there as it relates to these type of projects.
Other comments or questions? Okay, back to Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do appreciate the comments, and we will certainly dig into that. And if you have any further questions, please let us know. The next project is the historic Hayes home. And on a positive note, we anticipate that this is going to be completed entirely through partner funding. We expect the overall cost to be about $633,000. There is some minor infrastructure work that the city will likely take on, and then it has to do with sanitary sewer and water service to that property. The specific timeline for this project, we're going to be working with our partner to identify what that timeline looks like and bring that back through you all when the time comes to execute this work. So,
any questions? That partner, because of people who may not understand who you're talking about?
Friends of Franklin Park, Alderman Brent.
Well, I just think they've done a Herculean task to do things in partnership with us, and I think they should get full credit because that's funded from the citizens and other businesses and benefactors. So that's a huge partner for the city.
Absolutely. Thank you. Lisa, anything else on this one?
No, I think that's very gracious of Alderman Blanton. They are a great partner, and you'll see them here shortly on partnering with an upcoming project as well with the main barn.
Michael, if we could go on to the next project, please. So this next project also at Harlansdale is the main barn project. We anticipate a bid date in the second quarter of 2021 with a construction duration of about 9 months. If we go to the next slide, Michael, the original projected cost was about 1.7 million, and based on the opinions of cost we're looking at today, it's about 2 million. One of the things that we're looking at and do not anticipate bidding at this time, but we looked at adding design and planning for an additional parking tray and some connectivity that will tie in really future improvements to this site. We do have partner funding with this project as well. Friends of Franklin Parks has committed to $300,000, and we do have a grant through the state of Tennessee for $100,000. So total project cost right at a little over $200,000. So we're really excited to get this project going, and really appreciate, again, the partnerships that we've had in this one. Any thoughts or questions on that? All right, Michael, if we could move on to the next one, please. So you've recently seen a master plan update come through and take a look at. So this is the Liberty Park project. This project, we still need to do some design work. We've done kind of the preliminary conceptual layouts and anticipate bidding this in the first quarter of 2022. This project will last construction period about 2 years. If we go to the next slide, please. So the next kind of steps here are to identify the elements that we want to continue forward with in terms of a detailed design. Total project cost relative to the original is pretty close, from 5.4 to almost $5.8 million. And we have the good fortune of the Parkland Quadrant 1 having adequate funding to fund the entirety of this project. So we're excited about that. And you'll be seeing some design scope coming towards you here pretty soon with respect to Liberty Park. Anything else, Lisa, that you'd like to add on that one?
No, I think that is complete. Again, we'll be bringing back through a resolution for you to approve the full master plan that I did a presentation on here recently, and then we will stay within the budget that we currently have. We have Parkland impact fees, and then you will see that new scope come through.
Thank you, Lisa.
Well, I've got a question. Will it take all the way to the beginning of 2022 to go out to bid?
We still have some detailed design work to do on this one, so it's going to take the better part of calendar year 21 to get that completed as we go through the board process and the approvals, and then eventual bid and approval through the board.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, great. So if we could move on, Michael, to the Aspen Grove Trail project. So this is progressing along well in design. We expect to bid second quarter in 2021, and looking at about 6 months in terms of a construction time. Michael, we could jump to the next one, please. So the original projected cost, we were looking at about $1.5 million. With the current pricing, it's gone up slightly to about 1.65. One of the things that we identified as we dug into site design is that there are some slope issues on the backside. I believe it's the NHC property. Is that correct, Paul? Okay, thumbs up from Paul.
Yes, sir.
So, in order to deal with those slope issues, there's also a sanitary sewer interceptor back there. We're evaluating the construction of a retaining wall to make sure that we meet certain standards and that we can access the sanitary sewer line back there without having to tear up the improvements in the future. So overall, when you add that additional design of $125,000 plus an anticipated construction cost increase of $500, we're right at $2.3 million for this project. So that's going to be a really great improvement, kind of connecting really all of Cool Springs to Mac Hatcher and beyond. Any other comments on that, Lisa or Paul?
I think it's important just to bring out, Mark, as you said, the funding component of the Parkland is we do have funding in that particular quadrant over the last few years, and that would pay 100% of that project.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
I would just add one thing, and I got to apologize to Mark and Lisa because I helped provide some of the schedules to them. But there is right-of-way acquisition on this job, so the schedule that you're seeing assumes right-of-way acquisition goes very smoothly. We have engaged all the property owners, so we think it will go smoothly, but there's times where that can get hung up in condemnations and having to get releases from banks. So it is a very progressive schedule there. So that's just one thing to keep in mind.
Very good. Thank you, Paul. All right, Michael, if we can move on to the Harlinsdale Bridge. Again, this is at Harlinsdale. we're anticipating a bid date starting really at the beginning of the third quarter of 2021, and looking at a construction schedule of about 15 months. We could go to the next slide, Michael, please. So when this was originally, when they established the original cost, we were right at $3 million based on that same scope. We're right now at about $3.5 million. One of the considerations that we're looking at this point, and this would be a scope add of about $150,000, would be to, as we cross over the river on the north side, essentially the north side, we're looking to add an additional trail that would stay within the City of Franklin Water Reclamation Facility property and tie into the access road for the water reclamation facility, and essentially have a pedestrian trail along that driveway. In that case, it provides a number of benefits, but what it will allow us to do is really control that access to the Williamson County trail system north and west of this location. We do have partner funding through the state of $2 million for this project. Any thoughts or
Thank you, Commissioner Schroer, for helping us with that one.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Alderman McClendon.
What is the status of our lease negotiations with the Chestnut Bend HOA?
That is forthcoming. We've come to agreement. There's some nuances of what the best form is of that, but there is agreement between the neighborhood and the city and the county as partners in this. We're looking at the best mechanism for that. So we've been having that close to being ready for an agenda for the last month or so. So I think you will see that very soon, but there's an agreement among all parties to provide continuous access to the public to that trail system.
For how long?
As long as the bridge exists.
Well done. Thank you.
Is there any time constraints on the TDOT grant?
Yes, there is. We have to have it by July, this upcoming July. And so we are pushing extremely hard. We did meet with TDOT local programs, and they're amazing to work with. And generally speaking, when they see us making progress and where we're headed with the progress, there is some flexibility with that. But we have told our designer that we are going to meet that deadline and get this funding spent. So we're continuing to work hard.
Paul, when you said July, you mean bid by July? What did you mean?
We have to have the notice to proceed for construction by July. So then we can go through the bidding process.
Other comments? Got more, Mark?
Sure do, sir. 2 more, I believe. All right, so this next project is the not yet Tricentennial Park project, but the Bicentennial Park project. Sorry, Lisa. We're on trajectory to do a bid in the second quarter of 2021 with a construction period of about 18 months. Michael, if we can go to the next slide, please. So this project, original cost was about $4.2 million. Based on site conditions, we're looking at a current projected cost with that same scope at about $6.5 million. There's a number of things that came up during as we dug into this project, and you'll see this in the added scope area. There's a small parcel on North Margin that we are seeking to, at this point, we're considering acquiring for about $100,000. When we looked at the park elements relative to the North Margin roadway, it was identified that there was about $1 million of improvements that needed to occur there. And then finally, there's this kind of the discussion that we've had and continues about the potential parking area on the I guess would be the north side of that project area. And that of course is something that we still need to come back to. I think we're stepping through design of that and potentially bring it to you as a bid alternative. I would like to note that our current zoning ordinance does not yet allow for parking in the floodway. So those are some kind of outlying issues that remain. We would like to continue moving forward with this project. Again, it may be that we look at bid alts to allow this project to continue to move forward as we work through primarily the parking area. There is a little over $1 million in parkland funding for this project. And then based on North Margin roadway classification, it is eligible to use the road impact fee dollars for that additional scope element for that. So really we're at this point with the current projected cost of 6.5 and these added scope elements, we're just shy of $10 million for bicentennial project.
And one of the things we're going to need board guidance on is this parking component, if that's worth the value associated with it. We've also identified this road component. So we've added a $1 million road project to the scope of this as well. So that's just, as this comes back around, that's something we're going to need to look at. There are ramifications for what our zoning, as Mark mentioned, what our zoning ordinance allows and doesn't allow. And so there are some things we've added as potential costs that have made this go up significantly. So, and some of which that we don't necessarily have to do, but we need to look at, is the time to do it now, or is it worth doing in terms of the value proposition?
Mayor.
Go ahead, Alderman McClendon.
I think Alderman Barnhill was with me in the photograph in 1997 when we started this project, when we did the dirt scooping. Were you there, Mr. Barnhill?
Amen.
There's a picture of me that Linnea found and sent to me. It's I was a young man then. I say all that to say that this project is pushing really close up on the status of the juice not being worth the squeeze for me. $9 million would go a long way in a lot of other places. And I love beautiful parks and all the rest of it too. But when you look at the size of this one, its functionality, the access, the utility for people to go there and enjoy it, this one is not high on my list. That's a lot of ball fields. That's a lot of dirt somewhere else. I intend to scrutinize this one closely before I approve any more funding for it. It's just, this is the park project that will not end.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
We've talked about this a long time. Dana's actually right. I mean, it's just been around a long time, but I might also add and put a question mark behind my comment that this park will lend itself to giving us some relief in addition to festivals that are downtown, the big activities that we have that close our streets, and also any activities in the historic downtown area. Then we have festivals, and I think that this park is going to lend itself to adding to that and helping to accommodate a lot of activity over there. Plus, are we still doing parking that employees can access at this park area as well?
I think that's what we had spoken about, that large parking area that was still kind of up in the air. And that's really a decision that we need to make. And Michael, if you don't mind pulling that slide back up.
I would say, Mark, that's probably one of my major concerns is that we allow and have parking Monday through Friday, especially for our employees, because we have a parking garage down on 4th Avenue that is utilized so much by the courts. And we have a lot of people that need employee parking and getting them out of the major downtown. So go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so the item 20 on the upper right of the image here is the area that we had discussed in terms of providing paved or pervious parking. This piece, if you go with a paved option, it's expected to be about $2.3 million. And there's some detail to be worked out on that as well. But this is the item that I had spoken about possibly doing as a bid alternate. And again, the zoning ordinance currently doesn't provide for us to build parking structures like that in the floodway. So if we're going to proceed, and clearly there's future discussion on this project that needs to happen, but if we're looking to proceed sometime this year, that'll be something that needs to be decided fairly quickly. I think typically a zoning ordinance change would happen towards the end of the year and go through that reading process. So anyway, there's some balls in the air on this one, and we got to work through some details that'll require your input.
Well, for me personally, ample parking in this area is a priority for me for this park. I think because it is so needed in our downtown area for many purposes, for many times of the year, not only employee parking, but a lot of other things that's going on in our town. So priority for me is definitely parking here at this park. Thank you.
If I could make a quick comment, I appreciate Alderman McClendon's comments, and I kind of concur with some of the things that the Vice Mayor says. If you drive by this area much, there is a lot of activity down there right now without the park. People are picnicking on that overlook. There's people all the time on those walkways. And I think that the fact that it does extend opportunities from downtown, whether it's festivals or maybe even moving some of the activities that happen on our streets down in that area is still a good opportunity. I think we're all shocked by some of the escalation in these projects, and we'll continue to watch that closely.
Mr. Mayor, you made an excellent comment about that people picnicking and the bridge down there. We've made such a beautiful entrance in that area. We've really, it's an exceptional job has been done into that area. And I think anything we do at this park should be, will be fully utilized. Thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Barnhill, I can hear you.
Yeah, short and brief. If parking is what we're looking for, you could probably do it for less than $9.4 million. So, I mean, that's just my comment. I mean, we don't need necessarily to put all of the fluff and frills. If what we're really looking for is overflow parking or parking there, and if you need to change the zoning ordinance or whatever you need to change, then I don't have a particular problem with that. We're in a situation where parking is a premium, but I would say, you don't need $9.4 million to make a parking lot.
This is first and foremost a park. It is not a parking lot. I want to be clear on that. And I think when we bring this back, we're going to do the design work, but when we bring it back, I think we need to ask ourselves, does this make sense as a place for parking? I'm not sure it does, because I don't think it's a particularly good location. People look for convenience, and this is not very convenient. So I think that's something we're gonna have to think about. And I don't think you want to build parking just to build parking, then not have it be very well utilized. And so that's something we'll have to think about. We've got some other projects elsewhere in our capital investment program that do try to address some parking. So those are just things that we'll deal with as we bring this project forward as we get ready to bid it. We did want to go ahead and do the design work. It didn't cost a lot to do a little additional design to understand what the parking component would look like. But I think that's something for you to really weigh, whether that's worth the 2.2 or 2.3 million that could be associated with it.
Mr. Girth wanted to make a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Alderman. To add to what you've talked about, what Eric just said, I just wanted to remind you all that next Tuesday at 5 p.m., Shannon McCoy and our team are going to continue with the discussion that we had started about this time last year regarding some of the changes that had been expressed to the floodway and floodplain in our zoning ordinance. And this was one of the 4 or 5 topics that we will continue this discussion on, not just for Bicentennial Park, and we can have the discussion whether there's merit to incorporating parking in this area, as Eric mentioned, but maybe in other areas of our downtown as downtown continues to evolve to make a higher, better use of some of the property. But I just wanted to share with you that you should have received an invitation, and that's 5 o'clock next Tuesday afternoon. Thank you.
Mayor, we have one more if you're willing and able.
We're willing and able. We're excited.
I know you are. Okay, so the last project is the partnership with Franklin Special School District. As you know, we've gone out to bid on this and decided to reject those bids. Engineering and Parks Department, along with FSSD, did a great deal of value engineering to bring these costs down. And ultimately, the most current opinion of construction cost is right at $7 million. And as you know, this partnership is a 50-50 split with the consulting fees as well as construction. So our cost and FSSD's cost would be coming in right at $3.5 million each. And again, as we proceed, we're looking to bid this sometime second quarter of 2021. So that's a lot to take in, and I appreciate your patience as we went through it. And I know there's a lot of discussion that needs to continue about it. I do appreciate all the feedback and wanted to kind of close out to see if there's anything else that we'd like to touch on, or if you've got any questions, and we'll go from there.
Mark, one quick question. I know we'd had, maybe it was a high school group that came in and gave some naming options. Where are we on the naming of the Southeast Municipal Park? And then second, I meant to ask, on the Aspen Grove Trail, will that dead end at Macatcher, or will that actually go under and connect with something on the other side?
It'll connect through to the other side. Sorry, I answered your second question first. Your first question, we've discussed some ideas. I think we're going to be bringing something to the board in terms of a path forward here in the near future. I don't have a timeline on that yet, but that is some of the considerations we're talking about. Eric, you may be able to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, we've been looking at that. There's some other things we're going to look at with both the naming and some of the elements of how we communicate and think about all the different things that will happen at that park, not just the park, but the fact that it's also the site of a future water reclamation facility. So that is going to be, I think, worked into that discussion, but I think you'll see something on naming here pretty soon.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Alderman McClendon.
Point of perfect personal privilege, if I might. This is how long we've been talking about that park.
Who is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike
If you've been
Hathaway.
around for a long time,
Hathaway?
you might recognize some of these people. But you'll have to go in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
Mike Hathaway and
Jerry Sharber and
Doug
Langston.
Doug Langston, and some naive and inexperienced young man who thought he was going to change the world.
And with that picture, I think that's a good way to end this meeting.
That was great. Thanks, Dana.
So we'll see you back at 7.
Thank Linnea.
Yeah, thanks. That was great.